Hey everyone, what's going on? In this video, I just want to talk about some of the synchronicities that have happened to me in the last couple of days. This is what I often talk about on this channel, is how these events that go on in my life and the patterns that I notice, they're always synced up to the mainstream media stories as well. And a point that I often try to get across is that while I do believe that there is a cabal that uses this ancient knowledge to rule over the world, it's very obvious that this is going on. Everybody has their own path as well, and everybody has different, things that happen in their life and different ideas and different thoughts. And if people pay attention to their own path, they can understand a whole lot more about this knowledge than just connecting everything to the cabal. And I'm not saying that in a mean way or anything. I'm just saying there's a lot more going on with this knowledge. Just because you see a 58 in a news story, it doesn't have to mean Freemasonry. It could mean Freemasonry, but if you pay attention to your own life, it can also mean a plethora of other things. And I truly think that there's just no way we're ever going to defeat the cabal or be able to create a more balanced world and a better world for everyone if we don't understand our own paths and understand how everything is related and just understand more about this knowledge in general. The people who understand this knowledge and who are, it's very obvious they're using psychological tactics and using magic and everything else to rule over the world. But if we don't understand how it's being done and we don't understand more about it, there's just no way we're ever going to stop them. We're never going to storm Washington and shoot everybody and take over, because that's still going to happen by the numbers. It's still going to happen by this code, right? So we have to understand more about what is going on with it. And I guess with that being said, I've talked about this stuff a million times, so I'm not going to go on a big rant with it, but let's just look at this synchronicity that I've had recently. So on yesterday, well, it's after midnight now, but on June 1st, I woke up in the morning, and pretty much every morning for the last couple weeks when I wake up, my kid Zamian, when he sees me, the first thing he does is start screaming the word boat. He says, boat, boat, boat. And the reason is because for some reason he calls YouTube boat. And he knows that I'll turn on YouTube for him and his mom won't turn on YouTube for him. So every morning he comes up to me and he yells boat. And it's happened for a while now and I didn't think much of it. But I went to work and I was working with some younger girls and they were listening to country music all day at some country music station. And for whatever the reason, I don't know if it was because my kid said boat, to me in the morning or something, but for whatever reason, I was thinking about Aleister Crowley, and I was thinking about the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. And I was like, that's pretty interesting, in regards to Thelema and finding your true will, and then so if you find your will, then there's a way. And then I walked into the walk-in cooler because I work at a gas station, and I don't know what exactly why I started thinking about it, but I just started thinking about the song "You Can Buy Me a Boat" or I don't even know how the song goes, by Chris Jansen. The truck to pull it. You can look up the song, whatever. But the song called "Buy Me a Boat," and I was thinking about that song, like just seconds after I was thinking about Aleister Crowley and Thelema and you know the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. And I walked back out, and the country song that was playing came to an end, and then the next song that played was the song called "Buy Me a Boat." And I was like, that's crazy. I wonder if I willed this song to play, it was, regardless, it was synchronicity, right? So I wake up in the morning, my kid's yelling boat. I go to work, I'm thinking about the song "Buy Me a Boat." And then the next song that plays on the radio is the song called "Buy Me a Boat." And not too long after this, there was some lady who was getting a hot dog, and we didn't have any of them little paper things to put your hot dog on, and I couldn't find them anywhere. So I ended up giving her a little paper thing that we put like French fries in, and it's called a boat. And I was like, that's crazy. Now I'm giving this lady a boat, and it was probably like an hour later. We ran out of mayonnaise, and at the gas station I work at, we instead of getting mayonnaise from like their on our truck, we just go up to the local grocery store and get like some things of mayonnaise. So they had me run up to the store to get some mayonnaise because we were out. And when I walked out to my car, I noticed there was a truck parked right next to me, and the truck had a boat in the back. And I was like, what in the world is going on here, right? There's a truck with a boat in the back. And I'm pretty sure this truck, I wish I would have got it. It said Murray's right here, and I will talk about that later. But for some reason, I didn't take the picture. I wanted to take, I don't know why. I thought about it, and then I was like, oh, it's probably not anything. And then now it makes sense. But I go up to the store, I get the mayonnaise, whatever. I come back, and a little bit later after that, my boss comes around the corner, and she's like, I got to tell you guys a story. And then she goes, I was up at the city dam, and there was this guy out in the boat, and he just kept saying the F word and whatever. And right when she said something, I looked at my coworker and I said, see, I'm telling you, there is a boat theme going on today. Because I was telling her how I keep seeing all these things with boat and all these weird things are going on. And, you know, she's really young, and I don't know. I haven't really busted this knowledge out on her, but I was like, see, I'm telling you, there's a boat theme. I'm supposed to buy a boat, just jokingly, whatever. And whatever, moral of the story. There was just some boat thing that was going on that day. I just kept having all this synchronicity with boat. And I also noticed on my phone that day that it said it was 95 degrees out. And I was like, dude, it's not 95 degrees out in Iowa right now. And then I realized that it's changed to Seeb for some reason. And I let my 1.5-year-old play with my phone all the time. So apparently he must have changed the location on my phone for the weather. And he changed it to Seeb. And I was like, where's Seeb at? And I looked up Seeb, and Seeb just so happens to be in the country of Oman, right? It's right on the border right here. And this is the Gulf of Oman right here. And then this is Iran and Iraq and so on, right? And, I just thought it was interesting. I was like, that's just some weird stuff. I have all this boat synchronicity. Then I look at my phone and I notice that it's set to Seeb, Oman. So I come home and I made a blog post about this and how I wondered if there was something important to boats, I wondered if I wonder if we're going to get a boat story in the news in the coming days or weeks. Duck boat drowning, USS Fitzgerald. This has happened to me a few other times, And I also thought it was interesting that it's really close to Dubai. And the other night when my band played a gig in downtown Omaha, there was this dude who... Actually, it's even funnier now that I'm thinking about it, but there was this guy on the street, and he came up to us and he's like, oh, you Americans in the band, you play country music? I love country music, whatever. And I was like, country music? That's weird that you like country music, but I started thinking, well, it is Omaha, Nebraska, and so on. And he was just like, he wanted us to come over to his apartment and play a band gig and stuff. And he went on to tell us that he was the Prince of Dubai, and he was going to get in trouble if his parents found out he was drinking and so on. And I don't think, I don't really think he's the Prince of Dubai, because I looked him up and I couldn't find any pictures of any princes of Dubai that looked like this guy and so on. But he handed me like a big wad of money. He's all hammered, and I don't know if he's on drugs or what. He's like super fucked up. And then a couple of his other buddies came over and they were speaking some other language. And they went and got in a car or whatever. And then I got in my car and I took my friend Pat home and so on. But it's just kind of funny, now that I'm thinking about it, that he said he loved country music, right? And then I'm having this synchronicity with country music even. I didn't even put that in here, but... what are the odds? Seeb, Oman, boat synchronicity, wondering if there's going to be a boat story in the news. And I even pointed out how Seb equals 153 in Francis Bacon, and the word boat in Jewish equals 153. And then I wrote 153 is important to the Vesca Pisces, the Jesus fish. Think about fishing and boats and so on, right? And would you believe that today on June 2nd, I got this message from Zenith of the Alpha at work. It said, boat synchronicity with Martha's Vineyard going with the boat theme on your latest blog post. And I was like, all right, whatever. I didn't know what he was talking about, so I went to CNN to see if I could find a story about Martha's Vineyard. Well, when I went to CNN, the story that I found was right in the headline stories was one of Iran's biggest Navy ships sinks after catching fire. And believe it or not, it caught fire in the Gulf of Oman, right? Right next to what I am talking about in my post about boats. So we get a story about a boat in the Gulf of Oman, and I just blogged about how I had synchronicity with boats and how there was also something important to Seb Oman. And now we're getting one of Iran's biggest Navy ships sinks in the Gulf of Oman after starting on fire. It's crazy. Today's also the 153rd day of the year. And remember, Seb equals 153 and boat equals 153. And also today's 6-2, which Navy equals 62. This boat is actually called the Iris Karg, and that equals 62 in gematria. Believe it or not, Chris Jansen, the guy who wrote the song Buy Me a Boat, his birthday's 4-2, which is a span of 62 days before today. And Iran equals 42, and the word war equals 42. So, it's crazy. His full name, too, also equals 416, which is this big number I've been following with James Bond and a whole bunch of other things. But my son, Zamian, who yelled boat in the morning, today is also 4 months and 16 days after his birthday, and he was born on the 17th day of the year. And the 17th triangular number is 153. It's also interesting that, James Bond, in regards to this, James Bond 83, war equals 83, Iran equals 83, the word moon equals 83. A big thing that I've been talking about lately, Michael Collins, the death of the astronaut Michael Collins is all synced up to James Bond. He died 8 months and 3 days after Sean Connery's birthday, which is the day Neil Armstrong died, and he died 83 days before the 52nd anniversary of the moon landing. And James Bond also equals 52, right? Sean Connery equals 52. Chris Jansen also, his name equals 130. And I think a couple years back I was mentioning how Iran equaled 130 in Jewish gematria. I was watching for the date 130. It was in 2020, I believe. Right when we had I can't think of the guy's name right now, but it's the war guy that got killed or whatever. But look at Martha's Vineyard. Here's the story that Zenith was talking about. Martha's Vineyard ferry disrupted by ransomware attack, right? And on Zach's blog, he wrote ferry service equals 153. But it's interesting, too. Ransomware equals 153 with a capital R. And it might not, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to have a capital R. But if you go to Wikipedia and type it in, they do capitalize it. So ransomware in the Francis Bacon ciphers equals 153, right? So I'm sure the story is somehow connected, Martha's Vineyard. It also equals 62 in today's 6-2, right? So perfect. And what's interesting is the only thing I think about when I think of Martha's Vineyard, there's two things that I think about. And one of them is that JFK Jr. died in a plane crash right outside of Martha's Vineyard. And he was synced up to Marilyn Manson's album called Hollywood that he released, or they had to delay for a while. And then he also had that Coma White video where he, reenacted the JFK assassination with Rose McGowan, and it's all synced up to the movie Stand By Me and a whole lot of stuff. And recently I've been blogging about Marilyn Manson. And then Marilyn Manson all of a sudden was in the news for, oh, whatever it was. He has an arrest warrant out in like Massachusetts or some state, can't remember what it was, but there's also a story about how he, I don't know, he put a camera up some girl's skirt. I mean, he's just been in the news like a lot lately, so that stuck out to me. But another thing that stuck out to me was that Martha's Vineyard also reminds me of Bill Murray, and only because the only time I've even blogged about Martha's Vineyard on my blog that I can find is a story about Bill Murray getting in a fight with Carly Simon's brother at Martha's Vineyard, right? And I'll explain a little bit more. I'm going to go back and explain some other synchronicities that I've had in the last week or so, but it involved Ghostbusters, right? And Bill Murray's famous for Ghostbusters and the movie Congo and, you know, volcano symbolism when we just had the volcano in the Congo and so on. But so that's why I'm talking about Bill Murray. I think Bill Murray is important, and Bill Murray's birthday is also the 264th day of the year, I believe it is. I'm trying to think. Should double check that, but 243, 53, 60. Yeah, 264th day of the year. And, you know, Sean Connery equals 264, and Sean Connery died 264 days before the anniversary of Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, and the James Bond who died in connection to the space theme was Roger George Moore, who equals 264 in 2017, and he died just after Chris Cornell had died. And Chris Cornell was synced up to Black Hole Sun and Eclipse, and his birthday was on the anniversary of the moon landing. And then we had the Great American Eclipse later that year, and we had Chester Bennington die on Chris Cornell's birthday. And I'll explain some of this maybe later on, but you know, Roger Moore died that time, and Chris Cornell died in MGM Hotel, the MGM Grand Hotel in Detroit. And, you know, think about Detroit and the Lions, Detroit Lions, and MGM has the lion logo. So, and we just had MGM get bought out by Amazon. That was important to James Bond. So, on that note, in regards to James Bond, when you look up Carly Simon, not only is her name in gematria equal 129, this volcano number I was talking about. Remember I was talking about how volcanoes are important to the number 129, then 129 days after my birthday, we got the volcano eruption in Iceland. And oddly enough, and I watched that movie the night before, or in the early hours of the same day, about Will Ferrell, and he sings a song called Volcano Man in the beginning of the movie. And he's from Iceland in the movie. Then we got the Iceland volcano 129 days after my birthday. And Reykjavik, where it happened, equals 129, and a whole lot more, right? So interesting, her name equals 129. But if you read about her, she's also famous for singing the song Nobody Does It Better from the 1977 James Bond film The Spy Who Shagged Me. And this movie is one that has Roger George Moore in it as James Bond, right? And, you know, some people say that it's the best ever theme song for a James Bond movie, too. So, it's interesting. Plus, also her brother, his name is Peter Simon, that equals 186. And once again, this is another number that is synced up to that moon theme, right? Michael Collins just died 186 days before his birthday, and Eugene Cernan died 186 days before the anniversary of the moon landing, and Neil Armstrong's name equals 186, and Apollo 11 equals 186, and a whole lot more. So it's interesting. Plus, you know, his name's Peter Simon. It just reminds me of Simon Peter, Jupiter, the first pope. What, you know, what are the odds? Carly Simon, she writes the thing for James Bond. Like, what are the odds there's even a connection to James Bond? And recall, the only reason I'm thinking about Bill Murray is because on that truck that had the boat in it that parked next to me it said Murray's on the side, and I had no idea whose truck that was. It wasn't one of my coworkers, so it was odd they parked where they parked. And I don't know. It was there when I left work too, but it wasn't there today. But you know, Bill Murray also got in that fight on August 10th, and August 10th is that number that's important, or that date that I've been talking about for a long time. But it was also the 186th day of the Chinese Pig Year in 2019, and the beginning of Tisha B'av, which was really important that year, 2019, and so on. And I've been following Tisha B'av in 2022, synced up to the Chinese Tiger Year, and that will be on August 6th of 2022. August 10th is also that day that's very important to France, and because it's the day that the French monarchy fell. And this year is really important to France because it's the 229th anniversary of that. And the French Republic became, the French Republic on 22/9, which is 229 days before the French President Emmanuel Macron, or 2 months and 29 days before the French President Emmanuel Macron's birthday. And France also equals 229. So something big going on there. But August 10th is also World Lion Day. And recall, there's something going on with the lion theme again and how it's synced up to some of the stuff that's going on with Amazon buying MGM, and Amazon has the lion logo. I'll explain some of that here in a second, but let's look at this volcano eruption story. So there was a volcano eruption that happened in the Congo, and I guess it was a while back, or not a while back, but it was earlier than May 28th, and I didn't even notice it, but I didn't see the story until May 28th in the media, but they had it right up here in the headlines. And let's just see what I put in here. The mountain equals 82, just like volcano, and the Congo equals 129, the volcano number. But anyway, so I know what it was now. So I wondered if, I've been following so much with James Bond. I was like, I wonder if there's something with, like, James Bond goes to the Congo or something like that, right? So I typed in James Bond in the Congo, and what came up was this on Wikipedia, Kananga. And I was like, what does that have to do with James Bond? Even when you go here, it shows, like, for the villain in a James Bond film, Live and Let Die, see Mr. Big. So, like, see also. And Live and Let Die is that James Bond film that I really was paying attention to big time, because Donald Trump wore the mask, or didn't wear the mask to the Mask Factory back in May. And it was right after Pussy Galore died, but they had that song Live and Let Die blaring in the background. It was the Guns N' Roses version, but that song was the theme song for the movie Live and Let Die. And Jane Seymour was the Bond girl in Live and Let Die, and talked about her having synchronicity with her back in December. And then right after that, we had the death of Tanya Roberts, who was also a Bond girl. But the reason that Kananga is important is because Mr. Big, the bad guy in that movie, Live and Let Die, his name is Dr. Kananga. And he's played by Yaphet Kotto, this actor, right? Yaphet Kotto. And would you believe Yaphet Kotto died this year? On the Ides of March? Like, how did I not hear about this, I swear I don't ever remember seeing this in the mainstream media, but the guy from Live and Let Die died on March 15th, right? 2021, which is also the same day that the astronaut Alan Bean died in 2018, or it was his birthday. And Alan Bean died on May 26th of 2018, which is the same day that Amazon bought MGM for James Bond, right? And he died at the age of 86. And I keep saying there's something important to the date, 8/6, right? And Sean Connery died 86 days after the date, 8/6. And the whole James Bond thing is synced up to the Batman shooting that happened on the anniversary of the moon landing in 2012. And the movie Skyfall had the Chinese building, the Aurora Plaza, and it said Aurora on it. And then there was a shooting in Aurora, Colorado that night. But what is it? I think Aurora, Colorado was 86, and the shooter's name equaled 86, and Bane equals 86, and Christian Bale, who plays Batman in that movie, equals 86, and Skyfall equals 86. So I think there's a definite connection to that, you know? And also, 2022, August 6th is the 186th day of the Chinese Tiger Year. And it's also will be in the 53rd anniversary of the moon landing, and it's the beginning of Tisha B'Av, and Tisha B'Av equals 53. So I just think there's a huge connection to that date for whatever the reason. Maybe a new James Bond movie will be talked about, or, you know, maybe it'll just be something as simple as that. But there's something really, really important to that. But in 2018, I even predicted that we were going to get an astronaut who walked on the moon die. And there's only been 12 people who supposedly walked on the moon, right? And Alan Bean, the fourth person to walk on the moon, ended up dying like a month later. But the whole reason I was thinking that he would, or an astronaut would possibly die, was because we had the death of Roger Moore, and there was the big space theme, and then we had the death of Chris Cornell, and then Chester Bennington died on Chris Cornell's birthday, and then we had the American eclipse or whatever. But the same day that Chester Bennington died, we also had a story about, or maybe it was like the day after, we had the story about the dad on Home Alone named John Hurd die, and that film takes place in Chicago. And then we also had a story of a gangster shooting at like the Jacquees concert, and they made sure they told us it was a gangster shooting. And think about the movie Home Alone, yet again, in the gangster movie, it just, whatever, I knew there was something important to that, and how it synced up to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, because the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929 happened in Lincoln Park, Chicago. And then, of course, on Valentine's Day of 2018, that following year, we got the Stoneman Douglas shooting, right? The Stoneman Douglas Eagles on Valentine's Day, another Valentine's Day massacre, right after the Eagle, or the Falcon Heavy launched, and it was synced up to the Eagle landing on the moon. And then on 4/5 that year, at the Minnesota Twins baseball game, an eagle named Challenger landed on the baseball player James Paxton's head. And think about it, Challenger and Eagle, both lunar modules, and so on. And James Paxton, I connected him to Bill Paxton, who had died in 2017, who was Fred Hayes Jr. in the film Apollo 13. And Fred Hayes Jr.'s birthday is November 14th, which was the major day I was following in 2016 in regards to earthquakes because of the closest supermoon since 1948 on Prince Charles's birthday. And then we got a major earthquake in New Zealand that day. But I'm bringing that up because Sean Connery in the English Extended Cipher equals 1114, and 1114 is 8 months and 6 days before the anniversary of the moon landing. So there's a definite thing with 86. And Alan Bean also died at the age of 86. I don't know if I said that, but there's just a definite connection to all of these, things that are going on to that date. So I just find it interesting. This guy's also born on the same day that Space Jam came out, too. November 15th. I'm just now thinking about that, but Space Jam came out on November 15th. And this year, I believe that this is the new, hold on, we gotta look this up really quick. Space Jam: A New Legacy. It comes out like right around Tisha B'Av this year. July 16th. Let's see, Tisha B'Av. Thought it was the 17th when it begins, but yeah, sunset. So it comes out just before Tisha B'Av. And last year, Tisha B'Av happened on International Tiger Day. And it also began on the same day that NASA has its anniversary, right? So there's something important to how Tisha B'Av syncs up to all this. Too, and it might not be connected, but we just had the death of the guy from Tarzan, right? And Looney Tunes Back in Action is actually supposed to be, it was sort of like the Space Jam Part 2. That's kind of like what it was called if you read about it. And it's interesting, it came out in the United States on November 14th as well. November 14th. I can't remember. Oh, it has Brendan Fraser in it, right? Brendan Fraser, and he's George of the Jungle. So I don't know. I feel like there's something important to that. The jungle narrative. I can't remember. I have a video on this somewhere. I can't remember. They was Area 52 instead of Area 51. And, it's interesting. This year's going to be the 52nd anniversary of the moon landing. But let's go back to this post here. Sorry for getting off topic, but notice this guy. So this guy died on March 15th, which is 136 days, or also 4 months and 16 days after Sean Connery died. And think about 416, that number I've said is important to James Bond. And also the Dark Knight equals 136. And think about Batman. This guy's name equals 141. He played Mr. Big. That's how they spelled it on that one site on Wikipedia, but everywhere else I've seen it as Mr. Big like that. That equals 86. But like Democratic Republic of the Congo 141. This guy's name 141. Mr. Big 141. And to tie it all into the Tiger year, this Yaphet Kotto guy was also in the movie called Eye of the Tiger. And think about Rocky, the film Rocky, in regards to Eye of the Tiger, right? And I've been saying Sylvester Stallone is synced up to this somehow. He's going to be 76 years old next year on the date, 7/6 even. Well, just type it out really quick. Sylvester Stallone. He's going to turn, well, what? No, Rocky's, okay. His birthday's 7/6. They changed this or something. I swear to you. Hold on. July 6th, 45, so 55, 65, 75. What? Oh yeah, duh. He'll be. No, I'm dumb. He'll turn 75 this year, and then yeah, July 6th. So 7/6 of next year, Sylvester Stallone will turn 76 years old, and the word tiger equals 76. And the year 22 is important because Tiger King was all about the number 22. Joe Exotic sentenced for 22 years on the 22nd day of the year. He's married to a 22-year-old, and Tiger King came out 79 days before Carol Baskin's birthday. It's his 22nd prime number, 79, and a whole lot more, Talked all about it. Joe Exotic's father just died 2 months and 2 days before Joe Exotic's birthday. And a lot more, but Sylvester Stallone, he was Rocky. Think about Rocky and think about Apollo Creed and think about Apollo and the moon missions. And Apollo Creed died on Princess Diana's birthday or death day, right? Same day, August 31st, which is also 31/8, and James Bond equals 318 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. And MGM is also, Rocky is part of MGM, right? So Amazon just bought MGM for James Bond, but the Rocky films are also part of MGM. So think about it, Eye of the Tiger, Rocky, MGM with the lion logo. We also just had a story about Apollo 8 that I talked about with Jim Lovell, who's the guy who Tom Hanks portrays in the movie Apollo 13. And we just had the landing in the dark or whatever. The first one in the U.S. in the dark since Apollo 8. And, Jim Lovell was synced up to that, but can't remember it all. His name was like 264, and the other guy was born on Pi Day. And Just trying to piece this together here. Chris Cornell died at the MGM Hotel in Detroit. Where the Lions play. Look at the Lion. Look at that. The MGM Grand in Detroit even opened on the NASA's anniversary. 21 years ago, even right now. Which is interesting because moon equals 21 and we're in the year 21. Like I said, in 2019, Tisha B'Av began on World Lion Day. Last year, it began on International Tiger Day. If you go back and look at my post about the death of, or about Pussy Galore and Goldfinger and so on, and then we later had Sean Connery die and so on. But look, I even talked about the Tiger theme and Rocky and everything in this post on April 7th. So it's pretty interesting. And I even talked about how the band Goldfinger remade the song by Bad Company. Then the lead singer of Bad Company died like a month later. And then the next day, Donald Trump didn't wear his mask at the mask factory. And they were playing the song Live and Let Die in the background. I also think it's why the same symbolism. I think that's why that Matthew Stafford got traded for Jared Goff earlier this year. And I even, back in my post on this, I connected it to the lion theme, right? The 2019 was when there was a major lion theme, right? And there was all the stuff syncing up to the date 310. I was saying, look at this. We got Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Luke Perry, and then Luke Perry died, and it was all about 310. And then we had the Ethiopian plane crash that happened on 310. And Ethiopia is synced up to Haile Selassie, who is the lion of the tribe of Judah, who was also born on the first day of Leo. And keep in mind, August 10th is also during the time of Leo. And it was, that airplane crash was compared to the Lion Air Crash 610 that happened on around Halloween or whatever earlier in the previous year, right? So there was a big thing with lion stuff going on. And you knew that Ethiopia was further important because we had the death of Nipsey Hussle. And Nipsey Hussle's real name is Ermias, which is an Ethiopian name. And Ethiopia is where it's said to hold the Ark of the Covenant, right? That holds the 10 Commandments, which reminds us of Moses. And the Rams were just in that Super Bowl. They were in Super Bowl 53. Think about how August 6th, 2022 was in the 53rd anniversary of the moon landing, and Tisha B'Av equals 53. And Los Angeles is who they, Los Angeles equals 53. It was Super Bowl 53. What is it? Patriots, I think, equal 53 or something of the sort, right? That's who they beat, but they're the Rams. And Moses brought in the age of Aries, and Aries is a ram, right? So there's this huge thing going on with it, right? Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's birthday was also the same day as Super Bowl 55 this year. And I have to go back and look at that post. I think he was even from Tampa Bay. I think he was, let me look at this up really quick too. Matthew Stafford. Yeah, so he turned 33 years old on the same day that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl in Tampa. And Matthew Stafford was born in Tampa, Florida, and he got traded on 131, and the word Super Bowl equals 131, right? It's like, what are the odds of that? It's just so stupid. And it was synced up by the numbers too. Like, I don't even remember what it was. Whatever his name equals. Jared Goff was too. Whatever Jared Goff equaled. Let's put it on here. I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers equals 62, right? Tampa Bay. I can't remember how to spell it. Yep, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 162, like Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford born in Tampa. His birthday was the same day as the Super Bowl held in Tampa, the Tampa Bay won. I mean, what a joke. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, see, I have put out the Alan Bean thing, and he had the same birthday as Yaphet Kotto. So anyway, I've wondered if there was like a connection to Congo, the movie, right? Because in the movie Congo, I just remember as a kid, there's a volcano eruption at the end of that movie, right? They go to the Congo, there's these killer gorillas and whatnot, but there's a volcano that erupts and they're running away from and so on. So I found the movie Congo online and I was going to watch it, but first I looked up the movie and the movie literally tells us that the character of Captain Monroe Kelly was actually written for Sean Connery, specifically written for Sean Connery. But then Sean Connery, the movie never happened for a long time, so Sean Connery never ended up being in it. But it's like, what are the odds it's connected to Sean Connery, the movie Congo, right? And the guy who ends up being that character is Ernie Hudson, this guy in Ghostbusters. And I pointed out he's going to be 76 years old at the end of this year on the same day Pope Francis's birthday is. So that means this guy's going to be 76 years old for a lot of the Chinese Tiger year. And Tiger equals 76, and, you know, so does Negro and so on, right? But I knew there was something interesting to this guy, right? And, because he was supposed to be playing whatever, and I knew he was in the movie Ghostbusters. And I started watching, let me find it here. I posted this on May 30th, but I actually started writing this on May 28th. But I started watching the movie Congo, and like about 42 minutes in, he tells this guy right here tells the Sean Connery guy, I know I'm in over my head. I'm not James Bond. And then like a few minutes later, there's a pointless scene in the movie where they wake up in the middle of the night because they hear the monkeys like going crazy, and they ask this guy what that noise is, and he's like, "There's a full moon," and he's like, "And it's mating season." Blah blah blah. So the monkeys are going crazy, you know. It's just like, what are the odds? It's like involves a full moon. Just seems like it's such a pointless deal, you know. But I got about this far, and then my girlfriend came upstairs on that day and asked me if I wanted to go watch a movie in the theater, the AMC theater of all theaters. And then today, you know, there was a big story about the stock market and AMC as well, which I think is interesting. But I haven't even looked into that to think about what that even might be connected to. But she came up and asked me that, and I was like, oh, whatever. We haven't seen a movie since like, I don't even know. Can't think of what that movie's called. Uh, I'm sure it matters too, but I can't think of what it's called. It's some movie where this satanic family draws a card and this girl's gotta hide from them, and otherwise they're gonna murder her. But if they don't murder her before the sun rises, then Satan comes back or something. I can't remember what that movie's called, but that's the last time we saw a movie in the theater. And so we went and watched some movie called The Unholy, which is about Marian apparitions, which I don't know. It's kind of a stupid movie, but there's some stuff with that. But anyway, before we went to watch that movie, I was reading this article about Stand By Me, right? Will Wheaton and Stand By Me. And we walked downstairs as we were leaving, and her brother, my girlfriend's brother, he randomly like says, I bought the movie Stand By Me on DVD. And I'm like, what are the odds he buys Stand By Me on DVD, and then he tells me about it right after I read this article about Stand By Me. And Stand By Me, of course, was a huge theme in 2017, the same year I was talking about the Jesuits, the same year I was talking about a big moon theme and space theme and so on. But it's also important too to Halloween, right? Because River Phoenix was in Stand By Me, and River Phoenix died on Halloween just like Sean Connery. And River Phoenix's brother is Joaquin Phoenix, however you say his name. And he's the Joker in the new Joker movie that was synced up to China. And South Park's episode about, banned in China. And the next episode was about Cartman being scared to get his vaccine. All predictive programming for what was to come with coronavirus and so on. All during the Chinese pig year, and Cartman turned into a little piggy. Of course, Daryl Morey of the Houston Rockets also tweeted about China. And think about Houston in regards to the space theme, right? Houston and space. And, once again, Marilyn Manson synced up to JFK. And, think about Marilyn Monroe and Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Monroe's affair with JFK. Then Marilyn Manson has that Coma White video where he reenacts the JFK assassination and a whole lot more. But, oh, why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because of the Kennedy Space Center, right? Think about it. The name after John F. Kennedy and so on, right? The Kennedy Space Center. He was a Catholic president. Now we got Joe Biden, the Catholic president. There's something with that. River Phoenix's final movie also was called Dark Blood, and it released on the Jesuit anniversary just after the Batman shooting in the same year, 2012, the same year that Neil Armstrong died on Sean Connery's birthday. And that film's 86 minutes long. Another interesting thing is we went to Texas Roadhouse before we went to the movie theater, and it was like 7:15, and the guy finally came over and I was like, "Can we get our check because we're going to a movie, and we want, I don't know, I didn't want to be late, so we just paid right away, and then we left." And the guy went on to tell us how the last time he's seen a movie in the theaters was the last Ring movie, and he was talking about the one that came out in 2017, which is interesting because 2017 I had this huge theme with Gabriel, the angel, going on, and that movie Rings was really important because there was another movie called Arrival that was about a ring language that was taught by aliens, and then the Ring movie came out, and the Ring movie had a character named Professor Gabriel and a whole lot more. Synced up to my girlfriend being pregnant with twins and so on, and whatever else. But it's just another 2017 thing. And remember that year, too, there was Isaiah Thomas's tooth got knocked out, and then his sister China died in a car that looked exactly like my girlfriend's car, and he lost the same tooth that my girlfriend lost earlier in that same year. So it's just super synced up. But anyway, we went to this movie, The Unholy, and during the previews they had What About Ghostbusters? And I was like, man, in the movie Congo it has that guy from Ghostbusters. So I took a picture of it, and I didn't know what it meant, but on May 30th, when I finally had a chance to get back on the computer, I looked up the character that this guy played in Ghostbusters. And would you believe when you're reading about this guy? Veteran actor Yaphet Kotto auditioned and was offered the role, but had to drop out due to other commitments. So it's like, what are the odds that Yaphet Kotto, the guy, the guy who just died, who was in Live and Let Die, who was synced up to the Congo, he was supposed to be in this movie, Ghostbusters, and be this guy's character, and this guy ends up being Sean Connery's character in the movie Congo? That is some crazy stuff, This guy's character, Winston Zeddemore, equals 83, like James Bond, also 416. Another number I've been talking about with James Bond. The Unholy came out on 4/2, which is the day that James Bond was actually supposed to come out this year, before they pushed it back to 10/8. Just trying to figure out some things here, but we were also talking about, in this movie, there's a priest in the movie, and I couldn't figure out who he was. It's the actress William Sadler, and I was like, man, I know I've seen this guy in other movies. Couldn't think of what it was. He's the Grim Reaper. He's Saturn, or he's Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, right? And my girlfriend thought I was talking about this guy, right? And it's interesting because when I see this guy, I just instantly think of the movie Twister with Bill Paxton in it, right? That's just what he reminds me of. He's like a bishop in the movie The Unholy. And so I just looked up this guy or whatever, and outside of Twister, he's also in the movie Days of Thunder, And when you read about his character, it talks about he drives the number 18 Hardee's Chevrolet, patterned after Rusty Wallace. And I swear to you, if you go back, I've been talking about how I've had synchronicity with Hardee's, and there's something important to NASCAR and Hardee's. And then now this movie, Days of Thunder, that guy's character, he drives the Hardee's car. And Tom Hardy, who was Bane in the Batman movie, right? Think about Tom Hardy. If you look up Tom Hardy, he's actually in the running to become the next James Bond after Daniel Craig. So it's just some interesting stuff. And his name equals the same as James Bond. So it would be very interesting to see if Tom Hardy is the next James Bond, you know? He's also in Mad Max, and we had that Mad Max theater stabbing or whatever in Antioch that's synced up to the RV bombing. It even says in this Carrie Ells, or whatever his name is, the Twister guy, it even talks about as a teenager, he also worked on the production of the films Octopussy. And then Marlon Brando insisted on calling him Rocky after Rocky Marciano. I know Zenith told me something about Rocky Marciano. I always forget it. Oh, well, he died on the same day that Apollo Creed died. I know there's something else that he told me though. Something to do with his record. Oh, I'll have to go back and look at that. But it's just interesting, you know, that guy even has a connection. And Rusty Wallace, the car that it's mirrored after, or whatever, equals the same as James Bond. And Days of Thunder equals the same as James Bond. What did I write here? The film Octopussy. It even mentions something about how it is the only Bond film omitted from Phil Hardy's science fiction. It just seems so pointless to even write in there. The Bond girl's Maud Adams, that equals 129 and 218. Octopussy came out in 83, James Bond 83. Michael Crichton, however you say it. He's the guy who had the Jurassic Park thing. My son's been obsessed with dinosaurs lately too. Also volcanoes, believe it or not. He calls it a cano. But he's been watching a lot of YouTube videos where they make like fake volcanoes and stuff. But you know, this guy wrote Twister. He also wrote Congo. Think about Jurassic Park. My son being obsessed with dinosaurs. I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's just craziness. What are the odds that Yaphet Kotto was supposed to be the guy from Ghostbusters, right? See why I'm thinking that Ghostbusters might be important? And, you know, think about the jungle. Then we get the Tarzan guy die. And he dies near Nashville, where the Nashville RV bombing was. And if you look up the latest Tarzan movie that came out, Bobby pointed this out to me. It's even set at the Congo Basin. Think about Amazon, right? The rainforest, jungle. Guns N' Roses is really important to the James Bond theme as well. Think about the song Welcome to the Jungle. Jane in this movie, Tarzan, the last one that came out, played by Margot Robbie, who's also Harley Quinn. Octopussy, set in the jungle as well. Or there's a big jungle scene in it. There's even a tiger part. Lots of stuff going on with Mars recently too, and Mars has the biggest volcano in the solar system apparently. It's called Olympus Mons, which means Mount Olympus. Think about Apollo and Olympia Dukakis, who just died. Some other interesting synchronicity on Saturday. So what, May 29th? Wait, I had a band gig out in the country in town here, and my friend lives in Omaha, the singer or whatever, and he's legally blind actually. He can see during the day, but he can't see at nighttime at all. Just like it's all black. And I don't know. Eventually he's gonna be completely blind. His dad's completely blind. His brother's like pretty much completely blind. It's some hereditary thing. And he has like a part bicycle, part moped thing. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just a moped, but I feel like when I saw it, it had pedals on it, like it's a bicycle too. But anyway, before our gig, just a few hours before our gig, he actually texted and said, "You guys got to be roadies tonight. I just got in a hit and run." And I said, "Damn, on your bike?" And he said, "Yeah." So he was like, he was going across like the road, and somebody turned right on red and plowed into him, and like his knees like all swollen. He could like barely like bend his wrist. So I don't know how he played guitar that night, but he could barely walk. He was like banged up pretty bad. And I mean, so he got hit on his bike, right? He got hit on his bike, and that same day, the big story in sports was that the former Utah Jazz center Mark Eaton had died on his bicycle. And I was like, there's no way, this has to be connected, right? They report this story the same day my friend gets hit on a bike, like a car hits him and whatever. Thankfully, he didn't die, but notice Mark Eaton, his birthday is January 24th, and he died 124 days after his birthday. So 124, and he dies 124 days after his birthday. If you go from the day they reported his death and the day that my friend got hit by a car, it's 1 month and 24 days, right? So what are the odds of that? 1 month, 24 days. Also 55 days, and if you write out Mark Eaton, it equals 55. And my friend, he's also born on the first day of Leo, which is also the same. Oh, I'm not even going to go into it, but, you know, first day of Leo, and this happened 310 days after his birthday. And remember, the lion symbolism was all about the number 310 and the Ethiopian airline crash on the date 310. So, something important to that. Haile Selassie's birthday is also this day, right? The leader of Ethiopia, the former leader of Ethiopia. This year, August 10th is going to be 12-4, like 124 on the Ethiopian calendar, too. And Ethiopia equals 83, just like James Bond, right? Haile Selassie equals 124 to 83. Haile Selassie died at age 83. My friend's name equals 83. Also 264. Just like Sean Connery, just like James Bond. His Pat Conrad, if you shorten his name, it equals the same as James Bond. I mean, it's just insane. Leo's associated with fire. Think about volcanoes and Vulcan. It's also interesting too, like this guy. So, in relation to France, right? Napoleon equals 124. Remember, World Lion Day is the same day that the French monarchy fell, and the Utah Jazz player Rudy Gobert, he was like the guy who died. Mark Eaton was his mentor. It says, right, and they're both the only Utah Jazz players to be the Defensive Player of the Year. And it just sticks out because Rudy Gobert is also French, right? And remember, he's the first player in the NBA to get the coronavirus and a bunch of other things, right? So it's interesting, right? Haile Selassie equals 227, like French Revolution, like French monarchy, like a States General, like how Napoleon's birthday is on the 227th day of the year, like how Nipsey Hussle was also born on the 227th day of the year. And in 2019, it was the 227th anniversary of the French monarchy falling. My friend Pat's birthday is the 204th day of the year, like Utah Jazz equals 204. And 165, and it happened 165 days before my birthday. Ethiopia equals 165. Our band equals 165. Neil Armstrong equals 165. Pretty sure that Elon Musk, is it either Elon Musk or Elon Reeve Musk equals 165 too. And in regards to the Tiger year, I'm telling you, if you write out the word 22, it also equals 165. 22. And I was in 2015, I had a whole bunch of videos about the number 22 and 165 and their relationships together. So, something to think about, you know? And the movie 22 Jump Street was synced up to that. YouTube gave me a strike on a video about YouTube or 22 Jump Street, and I put the video out like 165 days before my birthday and a whole bunch of stuff. So, Mark Eaton, he also he wore the number 53, and he died 241 days before his birthday on 24/1, right? And the 53rd prime is 241. He also his birthday was also 6 months and 1 day, or 185 days after my friend Pat, and his name equals 185 and 61. So, there's no way. It's absolutely synced up. You can tell by gematria that my friend got hit by a car on his bike the same day they reported that this guy died from a bike accident, because it's, all synced up by the gematria. It's all supposed to happen. And then, what, a couple days later, the story of the news is this guy died from this motorcycle guy died in a motorcycle crash. His name equals 64, like the age that Mark Eaton died. Moto 3 equals 124. That's what he died from. Motorcycle 129, that volcano number. So, man, I hope this video makes sense. I just started talking, and I meant to have this video just be like the 10-minute video, but I don't know. Start talking sometimes and just keep on rolling, but it's 2:09 in the morning. I better go to bed. I gotta get up at the butt crack of dawn to go to work like always, so at least I get like 3 days off. I have to DJ on Saturday, probably be gone all day, but I will have some time on Friday, so that rules all. So have a good one. Peace.